All right, welcome to day one of Hiraya Media's People's HR Presents Bantay Boto, a live stream series on honest and clean elections. And today, we are going to have a conversation on the right of suffrage and voters' education. So, this is great. We are actually, 10 days? Less than 10 days until the May 9 elections. And we wanted to do this live stream, and so we can talk to more people, or just unearth whatever narratives have not been talked about for the past months because of campaigning. And so as we continuously deliberate on who we think the best candidates are for the highest positions in the land, we look back on history of our rights to vote as a society, while we also look ahead to the future by ensuring we know that we are making the right decisions for ourselves and for the country. Hi, everybody. My name is Christian Reyesonda. I am the creative director of Hiraya Media, and I am just so excited to have this live stream today. This is actually the first for Hiraya, so props to the entire Hiraya Media team, People's HR, Hiraya Talks, Hiraya Studios, and to all the Hiraya interns who have been part of this, who made this possible. Thank you so much. And so yeah, let's start. So I'm introduce you to our guests for today's conversation. First up, we have a senior student, I believe. His name is Joshua De La Cruz. Hi, Joshua. Hi, DC. What do you want me to call you, Joshua or DC?
Hello, you can call me DC.
DC. All right. And then next up, we have a professor from the Department of Communication in Far Eastern University, Casey Sulit. Hi, Christine.
Hello, good
Hi,
evening
Cams.
to everyone.
Gusto ko tinawag kitang Christine. Kasi nakita ko sa Christine.
Casey na lang.
Casey. Oo nga, Casey. So we have DC and Casey. And then last but not the least, let's give it up for also a professor of FEU, the Institute of Technology, Sir Raymond Datuon.
Hello, good
Hi,
evening,
sir.
everyone. Hello,
Yeah.
Christian.
Hi, sir. Kamusta po?
Hello. I'm Raymond Duton from FEU Tech. Yeah.
Okay. So, sige, let's give a couple of minutes to kind of know more about you and what you do. So, let's start with Casey. Casey, what subjects are you teaching?
Sa FEU, I'm currently teaching film subjects, handling production courses such as production design, production management, marketing, and special topics, such as queer cinema. And I'm also currently teaching communication research, sa DepCom. Ayun.
Wow. Ang dami nun. Ibang disciplines
Multitasking.
yun. Grabe. And this is your first time to vote?
Yeah, this is my first time. Medyo
wow.
nakakahiya pala, no? The first time kong pupunta.
Well,
pero
alam mo
ayun
yan,
na.
ano naman to, at least you are gonna vote now, and you're gonna exercise your right of suffrage, which is actually a good thing. We're gonna talk about that on this conversation. How does it feel? How does it feel to finally vote?
Ano ba, parang feeling ko in the past couple of elections, feeling ko, hindi, sige, okay lang, kasi parang may boboto naman for me. Pero ngayon, naramdaman natin, especially na, yun nga, may impending na pagbabalik, ng isang, dictator, So parang hindi na ito yung time, for us to just sit around and sige, bahala na kung anong mangyari. Kailangan maging active na talaga yung participation natin in making sure na magiging safe yung ating bansa, sa pamamagitan ng ating pagboto.
Tama. Okay. That's actually nice to hear. Lalo coming from a professor. Also, one more question. Since this is your first time to vote, how many elections yung na-miss mo? If you don't mind me asking.
Dalawa.
So,
yung
we're talking presidential saka yung midterm.
Midterm election.
Tama, 2016 and 2019. Okay. Alright, sige. Let's talk more later. Ngayon naman, DC, this is your first time to vote too, no?
Yes, actually, my first time.
First time. Tapos, tama ba ako, senior ka?
Yes, I'm senior student, AB Communication student, major in digital cinema. So for everyone's information, Ma'am Casey is my professor for production design and queer cinema. So,
Wow.
ayun.
Like, we're talking about this semester or last semester
Ah,
to?
the previous 2
The previous
semesters.
two semester. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Grabe. So what are you doing now? What do you do?
So, yeah, still fourth year na. I'm graduating hopefully this June,
Oh,
and
okay.
ayan.
Okay. So, alam nyo ba, si DC ay part ng Hiraya Media Interns. And one thing that I wanna say, upfront, is that this guy is a writer. You are part of a school newspaper, right? If tama ako?
Actually, I'm became a news writer and news editor for Institute of Arts and Sciences Paragon. So, IS
Mm,
Paragon is an institute-based media organization run by IS students. So,
ay,
I was
students.
part actually back in 2018 up to 2020.
Wow. So you have that experience, that background in kind of journalism, no? That aspect of life. Kasi news ang ano mo, 'di ba? Ang ginagawa mo, news editor.
Yes, actually, news talaga ang pinaka-orientation ko. But I actually started as a sports writer back in
Wow.
high school. And then, ayun, napasok na lang din ako as a news
Mm-mm.
writer.
Ang galing, no? Kasi, well, parehas kami nung co-founder, my co-founder here in Hiraya Media, we met, no, we both started as writers, pero sports writers then. So I did one for Yahoo Philippines and she did for the National University Bulldogs, I think, or like Candy Magazine. I don't know. Basta parehas kami nagsimula doon. And eventually, in the future, at least, alam natin na a media co-founding a media organization is not gonna be distant in your future, no? Interesting. So last, Sir Raymond, what subjects are you teaching?
Currently, I'm teaching social sciences. So we have a lot of courses in social sciences that would be readings in Philippine history, understanding the self, and then we have also gender in society, and then let me recall some other courses. The contemporary world. And then in the old curriculum, I used to teach economics, general psychology, sociology, Rizal. I think all the social sciences I have handled in FEU Tech.
Wow. Wow. So sir, anong position mo ngayon sa FE Tech?
Still faculty, and I don't want to change that. It's good to be in faculty, especially at
Parang si
this time
Casey, oh.
that they're all busy. Well, my only task is to do the online teaching. That's my task. And that's great.
Okay. Wow. Okay, sir, sige. Since yun naman na yun, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for agreeing to be part of this conversation. So now let's dive deeper with our first segment. This is context. And Sir Raymond, since you tackled about social sciences, and then when we were talking, I was asking you to be part of this discussion. You actually opened a lot of you dropped a lot of information that literally blew my mind nung magkausap po tayo noon. And so I think my first question is, what is the right of suffrage? Ay, sorry. Ayan. What is the right of suffrage, and what's the history of voting in the Philippines, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, if we go back to the materials provided by the Office of the Ombudsman, we have there that the voting started from the Spanish period, and then of course we also have it in the American period. But the first democratic rights of the Filipino people to vote happened in 1946 when they elected the president, the last president of the Commonwealth, who later became the first president of the Third Republic. But the suffrage, we will always trace back that from the Greek and then from the Romans. But in the Philippines, the first voting happened only for male. So the female were left behind, but latter part, of course, because of the rights of the women being advocated in some parts of the world, then the Philippines, of course, go with that trend that we allowed women to vote. So eventually, from Commonwealth to the present, This is now the right of the people to choose our leaders. So this is enshrined in our constitution as one of the articles of the constitution from the 1935 to the present.
Wow. Okay, so it's part of the Constitution, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Article 5 or the right of
Yeah.
suffrage. Sir, pwede ba nating pahapyawan yung provision na yon sa Constitution?
Well,
meron ba tayong copy? Sige, sir.
so definitely we have only two sections for that, saying that the right of suffrage is enshrined to the people, to the Filipino people. But of course, the qualifications will be part of the rules of the Commonwealth, the COMELEC. And then one of the things listed there is, of course, the age. So that is only given to 18 years of age on the time of election. So if you are 18 on the day of the election, then you can be registered on the day of the registration, and then you can vote on the day of the election. So basically, that is what is enshrined in the Constitution. But of course, for those who are with cases wherein, of course, there is a final judgment on, they would be disqualified to vote. And then only with pending cases being heard in the court, for example, we have prisoners in the city jail, they can still cast their vote until they were proven guilty. So that's the only thing there. So there are rights, of course, deprived to the people who had this criminal records. So that's the simple thing in the Constitution actually.
Wow, I didn't know that. Kasi, okay, the reason why I asked that is that I'm kind of curious, talking about the history of the Philippines, we're talking about being colonized by, the Spanish. Would you say, sir, na nagsimula yung influence ng voting when the Spanish came to the Philippines? Or did we have like a history of voting in pre-colonial Philippines?
Well, pre-colonial Philippines, I think there would be no votation, because that would be the time where, of course, we have the Datu, the Raha, and the Sultan. So these are not voted. So usually, this is inherited by the son or sometimes the daughter. But the colonial period of the Spaniard, I guess the election will only be on the lowest position, because the Governor General is always appointed by the King of Spain. So usually there are positions elected. For example, the Cabeza de Barangay, the Gobernadorcillo, or the Alcalde Mayor. But definitely some positions are appointed by the Governor General, because they want that the people governing the entire, of course, the entire island at the time would be under their influence.
Oh, wow. That's History 101. I did not know about that. I was curious about, when voting started in the Philippines or whatnot, but then, yeah, it could trace back to the past. And then now, here we are, less than 10 days before the May 9 elections, and we are, it's a right that we have been practicing for how many years, how many decades already. Why do you think voting is important? I mean, I'm sure that's for the guests. Why do you think voting is important? Anyone?
Kahit sino. Sige. Try ko. Ano pala to? Tawag dito. Quiz pala to. Syempre mahalaga na lahat tayo ay may capacity or may karapatang bumoto. Kasi nga parang laging sinasabi, 'di ba? Na parang sa election day lahat tayo equal. Although syempre pwedeng i-contest 'yun kasi halimbawa, maraming mga cases such as vote buying, 'di ba? And a lot of electoral cases na nangyayari during the election. So, parang ang hirap din sabihin talaga for us completely na lahat tayo pantay-pantay sa election, sa araw ng election. But then again, dito napapatunayan na parang kahit papaano pala, meron pala talaga tayong power as Filipinos, 'di ba, to decide kung sino yung dapat or karapat-dapat. Kaya mahalaga na magkaroon tayo nitong power na to. And sana wag nating sayangin, 'di ba? Na parang binigay sa atin ng konstitusyon tong karapatan na to. Responsibilidad din natin na i-make sure na tama yung iniluluklok natin sa pwesto.
Oo. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for saying that. Really, that's the bottom line. That's the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Hindi, pero, I mean, thank you so much, Casey, for saying that. And now I want to ask DC. This is your first time voting too. Um, how was it? The process going from like applying to like registering to vote. Can you walk us on that process?
Sige.
Um,
So, actually, sorry.
Ay, hindi, sige, go.
Ako
Sige
ba?
ba?
Whoever.
Okay, sige. Ikaw muna, DC. Go.
Ayun. So, for everyone's knowledge, so actually, eligible na ako to vote back in 2019. So, I did not register kasi I think siguro hindi din ako ganun ka-motivated before and parang I'm not really aware of what the problem is. So, I actually registered back in January 2021. That was still in the height of pandemic. So, actually parang medyo pa nga kasi may mga restrictions pa that time. But then again, syempre ako, very motivated na nga ako to register kasi dito na parang I want to exercise my rights. So actually, yun nga, may restrictions but then I actually asked my friend na samahan ako and actually nung pagpunta ko doon, hindi pa ganoon karaming nagpapa-register kasi para ako lang pagpasok ko, ako lang din yung ina-entertain
This was January
parang
2021.
2021.
2021.
Yes.
Okay.
Parang yung
Sige, go ahead.
that year din kasi parang syempre ang cut-off ay parang the register yung registration was closed in October 2021 din that year din. So parang earlier ako nag-register kasi syempre we anticipate na talaga na yung number of registration na talagang dadaloy yan when parang August, September and October pumasok na yun. So ayun din, kaya din that time nag-register ako kasi I anticipated na yung dami ng papa-register.
Okay. So, dyan ba, okay, were you in Metro Manila when you were registering to vote?
No, I was actually voting in Tarlac province. So
Tarlac province.
the province
Okay.
ako naka-register.
So, wait, was the information about registration easily available, easily accessible, or did you encounter like hardships in terms of filling out all the requirements, or what do I need to do so that I can register to vote?
Actually, the information was easily accessible na. Kasi sa household namin, ako na lang din yung hindi talaga rehistrado. And most of my friends actually voted back in 2019. So, my family and actually my friends pushed me back then to register. But then again, hindi nga ako nakapag-register noon. And this time, actually, sila din yung parang pinaka nag-motivate or parang nagbigay ng information sa akin how would be the process ng registration nga sa amin. And actually, accessible lang talaga yung COMELEC sa amin kasi since I live in a town and yun nga, the office of the COMELEC is just parang blocks away sa bahay namin. So
it was
very accessible
convenient,
sa amin.
very accessible, very convenient. Okay. Sige, let's look into retrospect. So, nung 2019 elections, kasi sabi mo, di ba, you were eligible already. You were of legal age and you can vote, you can register to vote for the 2019 elections. What was different? Like, bakit nung 2019 hindi tayo nakaboto, and then why did we decide to register to vote for this coming elections?
So, back in 2019, actually, syempre I'll be honest, I was 19 at the time and papaalis ako ng teenage life. And ayun nga, wala akong motivation to register, and siguro kasi I'm not really aware of the problem, of what the real picture is. So parang, ayun lang, focus na ako sa sarili ko. And in 2018 parang 2018 kasi was barangay election.
Mm-hmm.
And parang na-witness ko kasi how hassle the election was. So, parang since I'm voting in the province, so parang nakita ko na parang grabe ang dami ng tao umuwi ng probinsya and sobrang hassle nito eh. So parang hindi ako I don't want that. Parang that kind of hassle. Gusto ko convenient lang. So
Okay.
isa yun.
Interesting.
And
Ano
then ayun nga. Since com student ako regarding sa fake news, parang that time fake news I see it as it is. Parang fake news lang, maling balita, ganyan. And I didn't know what this information is. So parang hindi ko alam na ganun pala yung epekto ng fake news and disinformation sa social political landscape natin. So ayun, parang wala talaga akong motivation and drive to vote that time, 2019. So I skipped registering. So what made parang pagkakaiba, difference between 2019 and 2022, sobrang laki talaga. So, ayun, parang first, the latter part ng 2019, parang mas nagiging involved ako when it comes to different marginalized sectors. Actually, the height of that was the issue of, since I'm studying in Manila City in particular, parang na-involve ako on that issue. Parang naging interesting sa akin yung issue of vendors in Divisoria na parang they were actually the state, actually parang yung state na ginagamitan sila ng pwersa just to dahil nga nawalan sila ng trabaho, di ba? So actually that's one, parang isa yun sa parang mas naging involved ako socially. And then pandemic actually was really the game changers. Syempre hindi na I don't want to glorify the pandemic. Hindi natin gina-glorify na. Pero kasi the COVID-19 pandemic actually not created, but it's actually revealed the dirty, the rigged, and how failure the system was. So nakita natin how this information was used para ipasara yung isang pinakamalaking network sa bansa, which was ABS-CBN. Nakita natin how yung mga privilege, yung mga mayayaman na tao, sila yung nakakakuha ng yung mga pag nagsisearch ang COVID, parang sila yung nabibigyan prioritize instead of the marginalized sector. So yun, parang nakita ko what the real problem was. So parang ayun yung nagbigay talaga sa akin ng motivation na dapat this coming 2022 election, dapat makaboto ko, and I'm glad na I was able to register, and I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to voting on May 9.
Wow, nice one. Okay, so Casey, was it the same for you? Was it the same like motivation, or ito ba yung kamusta yung pagre-register muna? Let's start with that. Kamusta yung pag-register sa pagboto?
Ayan, na-realize ko na kung bakit hindi ako nag-vote ng dalawang election. Kasi lagi ako may trabaho. So parang nahihirapan ako to actually register kasi most of the time, parang Monday to Friday lang yung parang schedule for the registration. And noong 2016, nagtatrabaho ako sa TV. So wala talaga. Hindi ko talaga parang afford na. wala talaga.
Walang oras.
Hindi ka maka-absent eh. So parang yun, na-realize ko na parang, yun pala yung reason. And then, nung 2019, nasa academe na ako. And then, sadly, kasi parang full units ako nun. So, parang I wasn't really able to parang allot time, for me to really go out and, alam mo yun, spend a day, para lang magpa-register. So, ayun, at least na-pinpoint ko na yung reason as to why. Hindi lang tamad. Hindi lang talaga inaalaw ng schedule ko to do that. Pero ngayon, nung pandemic, kahit pa paano yun, thank God, nakapagbigay talaga ako ng schedule. Pero I think it was the time na parang nung in-extend na lang yung voters registration, as in dun lang talaga ako nagkaroon ng time for me to go there. And in-expect ko na marami ng tao kasi nga, extension na to eh. So parang I really had to go earlier, like parang madaling araw pa lang nandun na ako sa Comelec office dun sa may municipality namin. So I really had to spend one day para lang magpa-register. Pero okay naman, at least nakapagpa-register tayo. Matagal lang yung process, pero worth it naman.
I'd like to quickly circle back on whatever you said. Kasi yung insight na yan, normally hindi siya, I mean, we know that it exists. Kasi ang dami kong kaibigan, ang dami kong kabatch, mga pinsan, mga kababata ko, ganyan, na they failed to register to vote not because of laziness. And like what you said, it's not about being lazy. Sometimes it's about being, again, accessible. Kasi kunyari, say for example, lahat tayo merong day job in the morning, 8 to 5 or 9 to 6. Tapos kung ang Comelec ay bukas lang ng same hours, how are we gonna make time? So alam mo yun, kailangan bang mag-off? Kailangan bang mag-ganon? Parang, should there be like a change in that na sana pati Saturday and Sunday? I don't know if that happened in the past registration. Nag-open ba sila ng weekends or is it just weekdays? Weekdays pa rin?
Alam ko yata nag-try sila mag-open ng Saturday. Pero kasi I think yung concern with that is yung mismong, syempre, pinapasahod nila na empleyado, di ba? Kasama pa ba yun doon sa parang part ng sweldo nila or may additional sweldo sila? So I think doon nagkakaroon ng problem in terms of parang doon sa extension lang din of registration. Kasi saan kukunin yung sweldo ng mga workers? Kasi hindi naman pwedeng hindi din sila pasisweldohin kasi
Exactly.
additional day of work yun eh. So siguro, kailangan din siyang makonsider in the next elections na sana magbukas din sila talaga ng weekend registration.
Tama.
So that makaboto din yung mas maraming tao na hindi kayang mag-allot ng time na yon para mag-register ng weekdays.
Yeah. Ito reiterate, no? I mean, not registering to vote, it's not actually laziness. Sometimes, you know, there are a lot of factors that can affect it. Kaya hindi tayo nakakaboto or nakakapag-register to vote. And then, you know what, naisip ko lang, while we're having this conversation, parang i-move mo na lang, so Thursday to Saturday ka, or Sunday to Thursday, di ba? So parang meron isang araw na, I mean, nagpapasweldo ka pa rin ng 5 days, pero iba lang yung off niya. I mean, I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, that can be a solution if kailangan natin na weekdays, tapos wala naman tayong gagastusin na extra for, like, pasweldo. So, anyway, thank you, DC and Casey. Now, ito naman, Sir Raymond, pag-uusapan naman natin. So, ito lang fun fact, because when I posted on Facebook the criteria, because we're looking for guests for the conversations that we're having for this live stream series, I specifically wrote, I think number 2 or number 3 yun, a voter who has voted for, a voter who has voted 3 times or 4 times in presidential elections. Kasi madali yung pag senatorial, tas di ba president senatorial, kasi 3 years lang yun. But then, when we're talking about like presidential elections, that's every 6 years. And so, Sir Raymond told me that, yun nga, 2004, no, Sir? Arroyo, the Arroyo's administration, you started voting for that. Like that one or yung prior midterm elections po nun? Meron bang prior?
Actually,
2001?
I was not able to vote in 1998 because I was only 17 at that time. But though I'm not a voter, I volunteered for PPCRB for guarding the votes for how many elections when I was still in the Archdiocese of Manila. So though I'm not voting, I'm still, of course,
being
active
part
part of the voting process. But after 1998, I believe I registered for the midterm election. So that's my first experience of voting. So this time, I'm very excited. I'm a college student at that time. So I took time, of course, to register because I'm so excited to be part of the electoral process. So, of course, I'm taking history. So I have to be an example to my students and to my classmates that we have to register so that we can, of course, participate in the electoral process. So 2004 is my first presidential election, and I voted Arroyo over Fernando Po, of course. That would be a lesser evil. And then in 2010, I voted for Gibo. For Gibo. So that's my second presidential.
Aquino's administration.
2010,
no?
It's Noynoy who won the election that time.
Noynoy.
And then in 2016, I voted for Duterte because I want to change. So we have seen what happened during the time of Noynoy, particularly on my observation, of course. So I don't want the continuation of the legacy of the of course, sumalangit naman kaluluwa niya, of the former president. So I voted for Duterte. But this time, of course, I'm still wondering who I will vote. So this election is totally, I say, the most different of all the election I ever experienced, because it's a very toxic election. Everything is, of course, I don't know how will I describe it. I don't want to see the Facebook. Everyone is expert. I don't know who is the real expert in Facebook. But for me, of course, as a historian, I know where will I get my information.
Tama.
So, when I was surprised also this morning when I saw FEU is a political. And then I saw also the post of our president, President Alba, who, of course, publicly announced that he is supporting Lenin. So, the school is a political, but everyone in the FEU can, of course, express their intentions, who will they vote. And that is something, of course, we have to be grateful. But for me, the stand of the school to be a political is somehow giving us somehow to safeguard the institution. Because what if the one supported by the school did not win? So what will happen to the future of the institution? So, well, we have to understand how the Board of Trustees will look on the future of the institution. I think it's not only FEU who is a political or non-partisan. Even UST declared that they will not support any presidential candidate, because this year the PPCRB will be, of course, located in UST for the quick count. So it's impossible that an institution
could support
supporting
a presidential candidate.
certain presidential candidate will be the one, of course, who will house the quick
Yeah, so parang meron siyang conflict of interest agad kasi,
Yes.
'di ba? Okay. Sir, ang dami kong gustong i-point out sa mga sinabi mo. So, first one, you clearly said that it's different now because of the election, kasi nga meron tayong the day and age of digital and technology, mobile, internet, all of those, social media. Ano to? What am I gonna say? Okay, speaking of that, we're gonna have a conversation on that, campaigning and politics on digital. We're gonna have a panel discussion on May 7, same time, here at the Hiray Media Facebook page and also Hiray Media on YouTube. Sige sir, gusto ko lang itanong na, how was it? How were the elections different? Like, we can talk about kahit yung like campaigning, and then how was it, mga meeting the advance, mga debate. Meron ba, curious lang ako sir, meron ba mga debate nun?
Yeah, we had debates before in the 2004, 2010, 2016. So we have debates. But prior to 1998, I cannot, because I'm still young at that time. So I'm not interested in politics. But when I, of course, in my college years, I am very active in politics. So the only thing I notice about the election right now, because we are in the pandemic situation, wherein we have limited movements, the use of the social media is very different now compared to the 2010 to the 2016, where of course we have social media at that time, but we only rely to the mainstream media at that time. In 2010, in 2016, so it's more of the mainstream media. But this 2022, they have empowered the social media, and all Filipinos, of course, has an access to the mobile phone, and everyone can have an access to the internet. And this is something that they cannot regulate. So everyone has an access to a massive information, be it fake news or not. So I don't know how they will know if it is fake or not. But the thing here in history, we have to understand, when we write history, the primary source is always the people who lived in that generation. If we try to look back on the days of the martial law, we have to remember the people in the martial law are not the victims of martial law. There are also people who lived in the martial law who have seen the glory, or what we call it, the good things of the martial law. Of course, we cannot deny that there are instances that, of course, there are tortures, massive arrests, or whatsoever. It really exists. We don't deny it that it exists. But we can never stop people on the time of martial law, that those who were benefiting from that time, that they will also share something. And this is the reason why, I guess, as I have mentioned to my former students, take a look. The democracy that ousted the dictator in 1986 will be the same democracy, if we try to look at the survey, will be the same democracy that will place the son of the dictator. So the democracy that they have installed will be the same democracy that will install the son of the dictator.
That makes sense.
So the thing is, we have to analyze what happened to the people in 1986. What made them now to well, if we base on the survey, to go for the son of the dictator. And of course, we have seen a lot of information, of course, being posted in the social media against the dictator. But the thing there is, why these numbers in terms of survey did not able to lower the result. So this is something they have to look into. Maybe too much negative campaigning benefited the other side. Well,
Wow.
I have told to my students, negative publicity is still publicity. But if they
Exactly.
try to give the platform they want for the country, maybe it will give somehow the people to think that, of course, it's about time that we should not do this one, vote for the son of dictator. But what they have bombarded in the social media and in some platforms, of course, all negative campaign. I think from the very start, if that was so clear to them that it should not be negative campaigning, they should have learned dates in 2016 when they do that to Duterte. I think they haven't learned their lesson. So I guess they should have shifted to another way of campaign. And that's the reason why I guess this election is really toxic, because of this hate campaigns or whatsoever. Both camps, of course. I'm talking about the both camps, not only
Yeah.
the camps of the other camp. So everyone is, of course, telling a lot of negative things. So when this country will mature, that when we say politics, it's more of platforms. It's more of what we can do to our nation to move forward. Well, I remember the great Soren Kierkegaard once said that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. So,
Wow.
as a man of history, of course, let's try to understand our past, but we should never, of course, neglect our present. So, ayun lang
Wow.
naman. So, yun,
Wow.
yun lang. Sana na-realize yan nung mga campaign managers. Kasi akala kasi nila, nasa ano pa rin tayo ng generation na hindi na lalabas sa ibang media yung mga alam nila na hindi lalabas. So, remember, history is always written by the victors. Wala naman siguro susulat ng autobiography niya na puro kasawian niya. So, it always
Kamalian
be
niya.
a story.
Interesting.
It's always a story of your victories.
Interesting.
So, yun lang. So, masyado na-deprive siguro sa information na ang naging source ngayon ng information ay yung mga nabuhay ng martial law.
Mhm.
And these people who live in the martial law, siguro they were the one now telling the people na hindi naman lahat ng sinabi nung time na ang ganito ay totoo. Yun
Mhm.
lang naman yung observation namin sa
Okay.
pero
Well,
syempre, I can
yeah.
be still wrong.
There's so much to unearth with what you just shared. And so just to make it clear, siguro what you're trying to say is that the difference between the previous presidential elections is that mas accessible kasi si internet, si digital media. So it's easy for whoever comes to just push a narrative or push a message regardless on how they want that to be. And so I think that yun, tama no, yun yung kasi difference kasi when you look into the development of like social media or digital and technology, yun talaga siya eh. So alam mo yun, nagsimula talaga siya when I think 2010 when the dawn of Facebook on ano tawag dito on in the Philippines. Pero more on this on May 7 for politics and campaigning on digital. But yeah, so Sige, let's go back. Let's go to another question, and this is for Casey. Um, have you participated in a mock election?
Hindi
Like
pa.
recently? Hindi pa?
Hindi pa.
Hindi pa? But like, sige. How about you, DC? Mock election.
I actually participated in the FEU mock elections.
FEU mock elections.
recently.
How was it?
Well, very exciting, tsaka nakaka-anxious actually. Pero since that was held in March, parang siguro may nag-held back pa ako when it comes to my choices. Kasi syempre it's still March, no? Parang 2 months to go before the election. Pero
The election.
actually, ayun, very nakaka-anxious actually.
Oo. So, okay, itong mock election ba na to, and this is for the benefit of our audience. Kapag sinabing mock election, is it a direct copy of what's gonna happen on the election itself? And this is a question for like the floor. How was your experience, DC?
Actually, it was digitally held siya. So parang, but guaranteed naman na ano siya, na unique siya dun sa student na or sa actually
Yeah.
involved din ng professors. That's actually parang
So
given the
did
chance
did this happen through what, Google Forms or something?
ang gamit kasi was Microsoft One Office actually. Parang
Okay.
ayun.
And then how was the
may choices
process?
na doon.
How was the process?
Actually parang naka-ano na yung choices doon, and then you'll just have to click or parang below din siya na you'll just have to
okay.
click.
Okay. And so, ano ba to? Did that help you decide? Like, meron bang nilabas na results of the mock elections? And did that, satisfy you, or did that anger you, or did that bother you? Can you tell us?
Actually, kung makaka-apekto ba siya sa decision ko, siguro partly, but then actually I was satisfied sa result, and then kasi parang naging parang yung pulso ko that time parang nag-match when dun sa result. So parang actually for me parang medyo naging comfortable ako with the community or the FU community kasi parang ganito pala, same thoughts kahit
okay.
paano.
Okay, wow. The reason why I ask kasi it's on the same, how am I gonna say this? It's on the same parang space or spectrum nung kanina nag-uusap tayo about the inaccessibility or the inconvenience of vote registration. Kasi di ba may mga mock elections na, well, I mean, pwede naman lahat mag-mock elections, but then do you think it's easier to do that? It's more convenient kasi parang kumbaga rehearsal siya of what's gonna happen in 2 months or 3 months. Do you think my question is, do you think that having a mock elections or participating in mock elections would help that person, that voter, to really, exercise the right to vote?
Actually for me, depends on the person. It's like for me siguro I think hindi siya maka-apekto sa pagboto ko on May 9 kasi actually mas accessible nga talaga yung mga ganito, and ito kasi parang it's either yun nga mga community based or university based, so accessible siya for students like me. So parang kahit pa paano nagkakaroon ako ng idea how or parang ano yung mangyayari or how it's going to be yung process on May 9. So but syempre as a student yun pero sa different sectors kasi especially kunyari for example someone who is working na parang hindi din ganun ka-accessible sa mga ibang klase ng tao since ayun nga parang kanya-kanya tayo ng situation.
Okay. Wow. Sir Raymond, have you participated in any mock elections, or have you had an experience of like conducting mock elections, with whoever?
Okay. In our days, of course, we don't have mock elections. The mock election
Mm.
happened only in the midterm election for the senatorials in 2019. That's the only mock election I remember when, of course, the result shows that the the Liberal Party's senatorial candidates were one winning all the universities all over the country. But the thing here is, of course, well, survey was the only tool they used to know the pulse of the people. Well, in our days, we don't have that one. But of course, in my class, in the online class, I do mock elections. I ask my students using the poll in the Zoom. If today's the election, who will you vote? Of course, you know the result. FEU is supporting, of course, the FEU community, not the institution itself.
Yes.
Is supporting
a
the
presidential
vice president.
candidate.
Okay. So majority of my students, I guess that's 90% present in my online classes is supporting BP Len. And I told to my student, of course, you are free to support whoever you want because that is your right. So, but let us respect the decision of others. So that's my only reminders to everyone.
Tama
So,
naman.
The mock elections, of course, give the people, of course, the view what will happen in the election in terms of who will be winning, in terms of course, the classes for the young people, for the class A, class B, class D, class E. So in universities, of course, it will always be the BP, winning all the mock elections all over the country. So the choice of the younger generation nowadays is, of course, towards the BP. So we have nothing against with that because that is their choice. But the thing here is we don't know who are the registered voter on those who participated in the mock elections.
Tama.
So that is the problem. So that's the problem in 2019. So all the senatorials of the LP is winning, but the problem is most of those who participated were
Are not registered.
voters. And until now, I even given incentives to my students who registered for 2 terms. I told them
Wow.
those who registered for the 2022 election will be given incentives for
Wow.
the first term. And then on the second term, I give them another incentives for another batch. But for this term, I'll be giving incentives for those who will vote, regardless of the candidate they will vote.
Yeah.
So I want them to participate in the electoral process. I want them to feel that this time they have this power to choose the leader for the next 6 years.
Oo.
I want them to, I always remind them to be an ITAM. I want them to be intelligent. I want them to think carefully because intelligence comes from thinking. And then, of course, if you think, that's the time you can assert.
Exactly.
And when you do assert, of course, let's do it in the context of prayer. So let's meditate. That's why we have items in FEU. So we have to be intelligent, we have to think, we have to assert, and we have to meditate on the day of election. Who will be the best to lead the country for the next 6 years? If that is your conviction, and then so be it. Regardless who is that person.
Tama.
So that's the only thing we can, of course, give to our students for this time.
Sir, ang ganda ng ano nyo ang ganda ng incentive nyo. Nakaboto ko na, perfect ka pa sa quiz, di ba? So, ano
No, it's not a perfect
win-win
quiz, ha?
situation.
No, it's not a perfect quiz. Ano yun? Additional points lang eh. Additional points. Hindi
Additional
perfect, grabe, no?
points. Pero
Parang
I mean,
saya naman nun.
that's good enough, di ba? Nakaboto ka
Yeah.
na, tapos meron ka pang additional
Remember,
points.
they are students of social sciences and this is a civil duty. Diba?
Exactly.
So they should be given incentive for that. Because it take time for them to vote. It take time for them to register. They had sacrificed a lot and they should be, of course, given, compensated with this so-called incentive. What is 5 points? What is 10 points? And that is part of the social science. Diba? Yun nga yung ina-advocate natin to be a good citizen of this country. So if we want our future to be in good hand, of course, we need students who are really good citizens. They participate in the electoral process. If they need to be absent, I even encountered one of my students said, "Sir, I will not be present today because I'm scheduled for registration." So I said, "Go ahead. You are not absent. You are excused because that's part of your duty as a citizen of this country." Sometimes we should know our priorities. If that entails you to be absent, and then so be it. For as long that that particular right that you will, of course, is not a right that a little right, but that is a very powerful right of every citizen. So, yun lang naman yun eh. Kasi nga, isang boto, malaking pagbabago ang magagawa. Diba? Mali mo, magtay yung dalawa, yung boto mo lang pala ang mag-ano sa tayo, di ba? So, minsan magtataka, sana bumoto na lang ako, sana nanalo yung gusto ko. So, yun yung sasabi ko sa mga estudyante, go out and vote. So, whoever you want you go. Diba? Sabi ko, kung sino yung gusto nyo manalo, supportahan nyo, ikampanya nyo. Pero do it in the nice way. Do it out of respect to the people. Yun lang namin sabi. Kasi nga, if you do it in the culture of hatred and violence, I guess people will not believe in you. So yun yung sinasabi ko sa mga sadyang. And I guess some of them are listening naman na. And ayun nga, sabi nga, sir, hindi na kami yung dating ganito-ganito. That's good. So sabi ko, kung may sinusuportahan kayo, sabihin nyo lang yung platform niya. Ipagmalaki nyo lang. Huwag nyo lang idamay yung ibang kandidato. Kasi ang focus nyo lang dapat doon sa kandidato nyo. Ito kasi ang gagawin niya. Di ba? Yun lang naman yun eh. And that is maturity in terms of the electoral process. What we focus is the platform, the vision of your candidate. Regardless kung ano yung vision ng kabila. Pero kasi ito yung candidate mo, ito yung dapat yung ibibida mo. Pero kung ibibida mo yung kamalian ng ibang kandidato, sabi nga parang sisiraan mo para yung kandidato mo ang lumabas na mas maganda. I think people are, sabi nga ayaw nila ng ganun na. So it's a good thing na we should mature. Huwag na nating kalkalin yung mga baon na hindi naman,
Exactly.
Well, of course. Yun
Yes,
lang.
sir. I agree on that point. Kasi nga, syempre, gusto ko yun yung focus ka na lang kung sino yung kinakampanya mo, focus ka na lang, see that through the end. And I think, but we all understand why people do it. You know, sometimes they're triggered, sometimes they're whatever. But I would agree, no, sir? Doon sa sinabi nga, parang medyo toxic nga tong election na to. Ngayon ko lang na-realize kasi parang growing up, having been exposed to numerous elections already, even, I think, yun nga, naabutan ko on mainstream media in the Philippines, yung kay, well, it started with the ousting of Erap Estrada and then yung pagkapanalo ni, what's her name again? GMA.
I was there in EDSA too.
Wow, sir.
I was in EDSA too.
Anda. Sana ako din. Even
isa ako sa mga nagpa-oust kay
galing. Oo. Hindi kasi sir, pag tinignan nyo, parang oo nga ang ano niya, medyo toxic niya. Kasi dati, walang echo chamber. Kasi diba the digital is functioning as an echo chamber. Pinapalakas niya, ina-amplify niya, minamagnify niya lahat ng pinag-uusapan. So, alam mo yun, the engagement, the reach of it goes really, really wide. But yeah, gusto kong itanong, circle back to Christine, to Casey, sorry, Casey. Were you doing that incentives too? Like when a student, or have you ever experienced like a student ask you to be excused or to register to vote?
Actually, nakakatuwa. Mas naririnig ko siya sa mga senior high school students ko compared sa college na, ma'am, excuse po, magpaparegister po kami to vote. So at least, I think we are seeing a flock of young generation voters talaga na lumalabas. Hindi ko siya naging incentive sa college kasi medyo hindi siya related with my subject. But halimbawa, in FEU kasi we have the FEU Learning Journey. So parang may isang parang assignment doon yung mga students wherein they just have to present yung kanilang parang certificate of registration and then mabibigyan na sila ng points for that. So, ayun.
Wow. Okay, meron kang magandang point na sinabi na this is like the best lead on to this question. You said that there's an influx of registrations dahil naging active dahil nga again, that's a good thing that the social media has given. It's to really push voters to register. Kamusta ngayon yung, I don't know if you have seen this or read up on this, but how is the population of like the voters now? Gaano ba karami ang registered na Gen X, Gen Y, boomers? Outnumbered na ba ng youth or like the Gen Z millennials yung other chunk or like the previous generations? Anyone can answer. Do you think or have you read up on something regarding that?
I don't know if parang na siya, parang na overcome na nila yung older generations. But siguro one na lang, disturbing, I would say, na fact, no, na yung ating younger generation often believe in fake news. So parang medyo delikado yung generation natin ngayon if magpapatuloy yung ganong trend. Kasi parang despite all of the tools that we have, no, in terms of doing research o mag-google ka, ganyan-ganyan. Pero napakalaki nung influence na nadadala ng fake news para masway yung generation, yung digital natives natin. So, ganun ka-powerful actually yung mechanism talaga of fake news na parang even doon sa mga types of people na parang iaasahan natin na parang dapat kayo yung nauuna mag-fact check, kayo yung nauuna mag-research, hindi pa din. So, ayun, medyo ano siya, kailangan siyang bantayan. Kailangan bantayan yung generation natin, no? Na parang sana mas magkaroon ng mga ganitong campaigns, no, such as mga voters education. Hindi na lang dapat nakafocus actually yung voters education to the older generation, pero mas dapat let's start them young, 'di ba?
Oo.
Simulan natin sa sa younger generation para at least sila din yung magpapatuloy nung pagtuturo ng voters education to the next generation naman.
Wow. Okay, so I like to segue lang this. So tomorrow, our day 2, we're gonna talk about the youth's vote and the power of the youth, the impact of it, the implications of the youth's vote. So again, we're inviting everyone who's watching this for tomorrow, still the same time, 7:30 p.m. up until 9. Here at the Hirai Media page, we're gonna talk about the youth's vote. Okay, so I'm nearing I have two more questions for our guests. So this one, ito medyo personal naman to. We're going to the third segment of this conversation. It's the call to action, the voting process and the criteria in deciding who to vote for. So my question, and anyone can answer this, how do you choose your candidates? Like, this is more on a personal level. How do you choose your candidates? And how do you, or did you choose the candidates you're voting for? Anyone?
Sige, ako na, start na lang ako.
Sige.
Siguro isa sa mga pinakamalaking factors doon sa pagpili nung presidential candidate na iboboto ko is of course yung plataforma, 'di ba? Particularly to the sector that I am in, no? So sa kaguruan. Kasi mahalaga na parang makita ng mga presidential candidates din yung value actually ng mga teachers in nation building. And if wala silang malinaw na plano sa amin or sa sangkaguruan, 'di ba? Hindi natin makikita yung pag-move forward ng ating education sector. So I think yun yung isa sa parang primary na naging factor for me to select my candidate. And then syempre hindi lang dun sa sector ko na on teachers but also doon sa sectors that I also am a part of or nag-advocate for. So halimbawa sa mga indigenous peoples groups or community, kailangan malinaw yung stand ng presidential candidate kung ano yung magiging plano in terms of course cultivating at pagpapaganda ng buhay, pag-iwas sa mga masasamang
elemento ng buhay.
Para mas maging livable, no, yung buhay ng mga IPs. And ayun, as long as syempre bukod sa platforms, no, kailangan din tignan natin yung track record, 'di ba? Kasi doon natin mapapatunayan kung ano yung kaya niyang gawin 'di ba? Kung for the past 6 years wala kang ginawa, ano gagawin mo pag naupo ka na, 'di ba? So dapat tignan natin kung ano yung mga projects na nagawa din ng presidential candidate na yon para makita natin kung ano na nagawa, 'di ba? Ano yung pagtingin niya sa isang sektor na to? Ano yung ginawa niya nung nakaraang 6 na taon para sa sektor na to? Anong plano niya? Paano niya i-execute? No, para mas maging logical yung pagpili natin. Hindi lang tayo yung pipili just because ay ano ni ganito to ganyan to ni ganyan 'di ba? So mahalaga na meron tayo ng facts na magso-support sa atin, no? Para mas maging solid yung ating conviction na ito talaga dapat yung presidente na mas mag-aangat sa buhay natin lahat. Ayun lang naman.
Wow. Thank you for saying that. Okay, the question is how do you or did you choose the candidates you're voting for? DC, Sir Raymond?
So I'll go next na. So, ayun, same with Ma'am Casey. Actually, yung pinaka-factor talaga sa akin right now was is track record and then the platform or plataforma ng candidate. So actually mas importante yung track record right now compared sa platforms. Pero kasi parang they're interconnected. So nabanggit nga ni Ma'am kanina na um, the track record. So ano ba yung record nitong candidates na to? So may records ba to ng corruption or may issues ba to or naharap na ba to sa kaso ganyan. And ano yung ginawa nila or parang ano yung ginawa nila in the past 6 years. So or the past year. So parang given na may lahat ng kandidato mostly may plataforma and given na nasasabihin nila na ipapangako nila sa taong bayan na gagawin nila yung plataforma na ito. Pero paano ba natin kikilatisin na kung sino talaga yung magtatrabaho or yung gagawa ng plataforma to? And actually, ayun nga, we look on the track record. Sino yung nagtrabaho in the past years? Nagawa ba nila yung mga platforms or yung mga pinangako nila the previous years? So, I think isa din sa factor din, ayun nga, parang sector-based. Tayo mga botante, may mga kanya-kanya tayong issues na dinadala Parang may part tayo ng mga sectors na ako, personally, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community. So, ayun, yung issue na yun, malaking factor yun sa akin sa pagpili talaga ng kandidato. But then again, ayun nga, at some point, kailangan nating makipag-compromise Dahil, ayun nga, parang hindi naman most of the time makukuha natin sa isang kandidato or nasa isang kandidato yung gusto natin or pinaka-ideal na susunod na leader. So, ayun, for me, number one, yung pinaka-importante right now in the 2022 election was the track record. Sino yung nagtrabaho at sino yung garantisado na magtatrabaho the next 6 years.
Ako naman, as voter for this 2020, sa akin, ang priority ko naman talaga is the platform. Ever since that's my one of the most important qualities that I look to candidate, yung platform niya, how he will lead the country for the next 6 years. So, kasi doon mo makita if the person is a visionary. So, he will not just a president for 6 years, but all his project would go beyond the 6 years. So, ibig sabihin nun yung project niya ay hindi lang magtatagal ng 6 years.
So, it's sustainable.
Yeah, a sustainable thing na until nawala na siya, hindi na,
tuloy pa rin.
Wala na siya sa mundo, yung project niya, makikita mo pa rin. So, this kind of a president that has a vision, yun yung lagi kong hinanap A president na hindi lang niya pag-upo niya, lahat ng ginawa nung predecessor niya, i-stop niya. Tapos gusto niya yung kanya lang ang makikilala. Kasi it has been the thing, well, as a historian, yun yung nakikita namin na talagang you have to build your name. So, para mabango ka, tapos remember, in 1935, they were allowed to run for the second term. So, ganun talaga yung process ng iba. Pero, ako kasi yung platform, hindi naman niya yung sasabihin na hindi niya kayang gawin. And I believe that the person who has a platform, he knows the key people he will place in the government who will make this happen. Kasi sa akin kasi wala namang kandidato nagbigay ng platform na para lang lokohin tayo na entice tayo. Alam naman, sabi nga namin, alam naman natin kung yun ay nangangako lang ng kung ano-ano lang. 'Di ba? Pag may nagsabi ba na bibigyan namin kayo ng bahay, lahat ng mahihirap. Maniniwala ka ba na yun talaga ay possible na platform? So sa akin kasi I need to make sure that the platform is really doable. And he knows or she knows or he knows how the budget will be allocated for this. Kasi minsan magtataka kayo, ang daming gustong gawin, pero ang tanong, saan niya kukunin yung budget? O, di ba? Kasi kami sa academe, lalo na sa management, yun ang tanong a plan without a budget is a joke. So, di ba, halos sabihin nila na ito ang gagawin namin, pero ang tanong namin, saan niya kukunin yung budget? Di ba? That will cause a lot of problem in terms of building. Ang dami kasing masasayang pangako, actually. Maririnig mo siya ngayong election. Kanina lang may narinig ako na magbibigay pa ng ito ng pension sa mga PWD, magbibigay ng pension sa mga senior citizen. Pero ang tanong ko, ang dami nun na. Tapos 2,000 every month. So saan niya kukunin yung pera? So yun yung ano eh. Kasi kung platform lang naman din, kasi tinitignan ko rin, is the platform doable?
That's yeah, no sir. Ang ganda nun. Kasi
Tapos,
normally, 'di ba, people would just, may plataforma to, so may magagawa to. But then I think the next layer of that is what you're talking about. Kailangan i-evaluate mo na siya. Is this doable? Is this you know, in the 6 years, is this gonna be doable, or kada palit ng presidente, bagong projects na naman. So parang lagi tayong back to square one, parang ganon. So ang ganda nun, sir. Ang gandang
ito, analysis ko
Oo.
lang, Chris. Maybe that's the reason why Marcos is winning the survey is because yung platform niya is connected to the platform of the sitting president now. Kasi the people start of going back to zero. Parang gusto nila there would be continuation. And sabi nga, karamihan ng mga diehard Duterte is supporting now BBM because they want the continuation. So this is also reality check. If people really hate the sitting president, maybe that could be a reason for a change. But if people wanted the continuation, then it says something. Diba? Remember when Duterte was elected in 2016 because they want to end the Liberal Party's domination. But this time, why people wanted to have the continuation of the sitting president? Kasi actually, kung pag-uusapan lang naman din ng history, ito lang yata ang outgoing president na ang approval rating ay mataas pa rin. Kasi usually, ang approval rating ng outgoing president will be always
Sobrang
the lowest.
sobrang
Diba?
baba.
Sobrang baba.
Yeah.
No? Pero ito nasa 60% pa rin. So that is a thing that they have to realize. Siguro kung ako nasa camp ni BP Leni, kung siguro kung pinagsabi ko na itutuloy natin yung magagandang proyekto ni Duterte, baka may makuha siyang supporter. Pero kasi it's totally different. So maybe the people is tired of going back to zero. They want continuation. Kasi ang point lang kasi dito, if Duterte mishandled the pandemic, hindi na natin kailangan pang mag-campaign. People will really choose someone who will really replace Duterte because they are tired of what Duterte had done to the pandemic thing. Pero dun pa lang di ba? Sabi nga, daming dapat tignan. So sana yung mga candidate, kung siguro ganun ang nila, ang pinagbasihan nila na may continuation siguro. Diba? Parang siguro
interesting take.
Diba? Kasi yun ang
sir.
problema sa Pilipinas actually. Bakit sa ibang bansa hindi ganito kaano? Kasi nga they want continuation in other countries. Pero sa Philippines kasi parang di ba parang nakakapagod na back to zero.
Mm-mm.
Parang ang hirap.
Every
So,
6 years, no?
Palit ng palit. Diba?
Palit ng
And then,
palit.
parang sabihin, itong project ko to. Parang it's about time na hindi na dapat ganun. So dapat ang project hindi dapat napuputol kasi wala na yung presidente. And that was Duterte have done siguro. Yung mga project ni Pinoy na hindi natapos sa term niya, natapos sa term ni Duterte. Pero syempre, ang mag-i-inaugurate talaga nun, yung sitting president. Pero hindi naman natin pwede i-deny na those were started in the time of Pinoy. Nobody can deny that.
Yeah.
The thing here kasi, if you will see the campaign of the presidential votes, most of them talaga, they tried to say that we will start from zero again. So, siguro, yun lang yung din. I think the campaign mother should have looked into this one. That the Filipino is tired of going back to zero. We want continuation. Yeah. So, sayang. Kung ako lang siguro ang ni BP Leni, maybe nasabihan ko na dapat ganito kasi ang atake na. Hindi na yung ganito. Kasi actually, BP Leni is doing good. We cannot deny that, di ba? Pero ang problema kasi, yung image na project, alam niyo naman ng mga tao, di ba?
It's always,
it's
always tricky.
Yeah. So sabi ko, we always want the best for the country. If Leni is the best for the country, then so be it. Sabi ko nga sa mga estudyante ko, sino man manalo sa May 9, siya presidente natin. Pero sabi ng sa estudyante ko, sir, pag nanalo yung isa talaga, magmamigrate na ako. Sabi ko, it's your choice. Tapos sabi ng isang estudyante ko, sir, magre-revolution kami. Oh, bakit?
Ba-
Sabi ko sa kanila, there is one way how to remove a president in the legal terms. Why venture to something outside the context of the Constitution? So, yun yung sinasabi ko sa kanila. Sabi ko nga, lahat naman yan may gustong gawin sa Pilipinas. Pero, may the best person win. Ayun. So,
okay.
galingan lang ng campaign.
On that note, ito last question na to. How can we have an honest and clean elections? Kasi by now, kahit sino iboboto nyo, kahit si ganito or si ganito, what we want now is for our votes to be counted. And in that process, we only hope for honesty and a clean election. So that's the last question for this conversation. How can we have an honest and clean elections? Anyone can answer.
Sige, ako ulit. To be honest, mahirap siyang gawin, no? Kasi nga parang for the longest time, 'di ba? Ang daming nakaset in place, no? Para hindi maging honest at para hindi maging clean ang election. Napakaraming mga practices, no, na ginagawa from the local to the national election. Actually, sabi nga dito sa amin, mas madumi daw talaga ang local elections. Because sobrang dami talaga ng mga nangyayari during the election day. No? Even halimbawa, mga teachers natin, yung mga nagsiserve as electoral officers, minsan nalalagay yung buhay nila sa panganib just because of this election, di ba? So, mahirap siya talagang gawin. And to be honest, if individual lang, yung parang individual responsibility lang yung gagawin natin, it cannot really be done. So, sorry, ang hirap sagutin ng question kasi dapat systemic yung change talaga, na parang systemic yung change na kailangan nating i-instill in order for us to really have an honest and clean election. Pero yun nga, let's do the best that we can as individuals, no? Iboto natin yung tama, iboto natin yung kung sino yung gusto natin, and then syempre, kung kaya nating volunteer, 'di ba, sa mga kuwari sa NAPREL, 'di ba, CRV, let's do that para magkaroon din tayo talaga ng way, no, bilang individual na sumama sa mga organizations or mga groups na talagang magbabantay sa mga boto natin. And I think ma-appreciate din iyon ng mga iba pang mga tao or iba pang mga botante, no? So halimbawa sa mga electoral officers, na-appreciate ng mga teachers yon kasi marami daw mga instances wherein talagang sinusugod sila ng mga supporters, ini-intimidate yung mga teachers. So I think kailangan din ng parang mga set of volunteers din na somehow, bukod syempre, hopefully sa police forces natin na magbabantay sa kanila, kailangan din nila ng civilians that will also protect them and will try to make sure na makakaiwas din sila sa mga ganong uri ng intimidations. So kung kaya lang naman ng ating mga energy, 'di ba, na mag-volunteer, even not just during the elections, no, but we can also join organizations na lumalaban sa mga fake news or mga nag-fact check. So halimbawa, yung organization ko is a part of check.ph and fact check ng Rappler, wherein we as academics, no, we are really doing our best, no, to combat fake news kasi napakahalaga nung role na ginagampanan nito doon sa pag-shape ng ating elections. So kung kaya lang mag-volunteer tayo, mag-fact check tayo as individuals, kung kayang usapin natin ang ating mga family members, ating mga friends, no, para mas maging active din sila and magkaroon sila ng responsibility to be honest and be clean during the election. Let's do that. No, yung maliliit nating mga steps, no, hopefully yun nga, mas malaki yung change na madala nito para mas maging malinis yung election. Ayun. Nakamute ka.
Walang subtitle na lumabas. Todo project pa ako. So, thank you so much, Casey, for that. Sir Raymond or DC, how can we have an honest and clean elections?
So sige, sa siguro yung point ko muna. So as parang kay Ma'am Casey na din, no, parang ang hirap nga no, parang sagutin itong tanong na to, lalo na at this point na parang 1 week na lang election na. So guaranteed nga ba yung honest and clean election? I don't know if valid yung observation ko kasi alright, kita pa lang natin may mga sa COMELEC pa lang may mga conflict of interest na So parang Amy Marcos sa parang chairman ng Committee on Elections of the Senate. And then ito parang his brother is running for the presidency, di ba? Tapos with the issue na din ng vote buying, ayun parang na ano yun clean, malinis nga ba tong election na to, and also the disinformation na very very rampant na on the social media, as ito na nga yung parang pinaka-primary source ng information. So parang yung decision ba ng taong bayan is an informed decision or parang the decision was based on truth ba? So ito yung mga parang mga conflicts na na parang parang nagsasabi na or parang kumi-question na magiging honest and clean ba tong election na to. And ayun nga, parang as a first time voter din, na parang ang kaya personally, parang pinakakaya ko lang din talagang gawin was first, syempre as a member, so to be member ng media, was to do my duty when it comes to fact checking. So parang we should always call out disinformation or fake news in yan. Ayun, it's also one thing na para makatulong tayo to promote a clean and honest election.
Okay, thank you, DC. Thank you. Thank you for that. So Raymond, how can we
Ako
have...
naman, Chris, yung clean and honest election will always start in every person. So, as a voter, of course, if you will not practice yung mga illegal, then that would be leading towards a clean and honest election. It should be a collaborative effort of everyone. Ibig sabihin, if you will not allow your votes to be sold, then you're participating to an honest and clean election. So I remember when I asked my students nung way back 2016 yata, they went back to provinces kasi nga daw malaki daw yung bigayan. So somewhere in Bicol, sabi niya may 7,000, may 6,000. Sarap palang bumoto sa inyo, no? May monetary value.
Malaki
So,
ng
sabi
ano,
ko nga,
malaki ng...
laki ng 2016 yun, 2016. So, sabi ko nga if we want an honest election, it should start talaga sa atin. Kasi kung lahat tayo may ganong conviction na we will not sell our votes, we will volunteer for guarding out the votes of everyone. I remember 1998, I saw the importance of volunteers. Kasi I was one of those people who volunteered. Even I'm not a voter. Na talagang isa ako sa nagtali. Kasi if you are non-partisan, you can help the board for the tallying and everything. Pero yung mga partisan kasi, they are not allowed. Pero yung mga PPCRB, NAMPRE, they are allowed to help. Kasi nga, non-partisan sila. Non-partisan kami. Wala kami sinusuportan candidate. So, neutral kami. So, in that way, of course, yung miyembro ng electoral board will be very safe. Kasi alam nila na yung tumutulong sa kanila ay walang personal interest na gusto nilang manalo yung ganitong kandidato. We need a lot of volunteers this coming 2022 election. Especially this kind of pandemic. So, yun nga sinasabi ko sa mga estudyante ko, if you can volunteer to watch the process of the electoral thing, then that's a good thing. So that would be a great contribution we can give to an honest and peaceful election. So lahat talaga magsisimula sa atin. So, yun. Kaya nga sinasabi ko sa huwag niyo ibibenta ang boto niyo kahit anong mangyari. Kaya nga, sir, tatanggapin ba namin yung pera na ibibigay? Kasi, di ba, pera naman namin yun. Sabi ko sa kanila, if you do that, then, ang mangyayari niyan, the vicious cycle will not be cut. Kasi for as long na alam ng politician na tumatanggap ang tao, they will still give.
Yep. It's
So,
gonna be
ko,
a cyclical process.
Yeah, sabi ko sa kanila,
ikot lang siya.
Minsan, kailangan ipakita nyo sa kanila na hindi nabibili ang boto nyo. Mm-hmm. Huwag nyo isipin na, sir, di naman naman siya boboto. Kahit na, kasi isipin nila na okay lang pala yung ginagawa nila. So,
Mm-mm.
it should always start from everyone. Kaya nga, ang pag-asa talaga natin ngayon yung kabataan. And the good thing is 56% of the voters for this 2022 is youth. So, ganun
Youth.
kalaki yung, we're talking about
What
the
age range, sir?
sectors. That would be until 21 or 28, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So, ganun kalaki
Wow.
yung voters power ng youth this 2022. I guess that would, kasi 64 million, so nasa 37 million yung
Yeah, around that
So,
margin.
sabi ko nga, kung itong 37 million na to can do change, di ba? Malaking ano yun, malaking kabawasan na yun sa problema natin every
Exactly.
pag-election. So
Mm-mm.
that's why we have to double time educating the younger generation that
Uh-uh.
to have an honest and peaceful election. Sabi nga, it will always be the duty of everyone. Not only of the certain organization, only the COMELEC, no. It's the duty of everyone. So we have to do our part. So, yun nga. Don't be applying voters. Don't sell your votes. And then volunteer. I guess if everyone will do that, this would be a peaceful and honest election.
Wow. Thank you so much. Well, that's all the questions that I have. Again, we're gonna have a lot of 4 more episodes of this. Tomorrow, we're gonna talk about the youth's vote, and then on next Friday, we're gonna talk about Pulso ng Minoria. It's a live podcast recording for Spotify, and then next Saturday, we're gonna talk about politics and campaigning on digital, and then the night before the elections, May 8th, it's a Sunday. We're gonna have a virtual town hall on vote vigilance, and so yun. We hope. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Sir Raymond Datuan. Thank you, Joshua De La Cruz and Ma'am Casey Sulit for being here with us, talking about the right of suffrage and voters' education. But before I let you go, I'm gonna call in one of the producers. The producer actually of this episode, Roxanne Fiesta, is also an intern for Hiraya Media, and she's gonna present the certificate of appreciation for you. Roxanne?
Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your knowledge about the right of suffrage and voters' education. At this point, Hiraya Media would like to appreciate the efforts of Mr. Joshua De La Cruz, Mr. Raymond Datuon, and Ms. Casey Sulit for being our guest panels and imparting your invaluable insights and stories to the audience during the day 1 of Hiraya Media's live stream series on honest and clean elections, #Bantay Boto, presented by People's HR. We sincerely appreciate all of you for taking out time from your busy schedule to provide us with such valuable information. We wish you great luck and success.
Wow. Thank you. So once again, maraming salamat Sir Raymond, DC, and Casey, and I hope we can all just hope for an honest and clean elections. And yeah, so to all the viewers, please follow us on our socials. We are Hiraya Media, and so Facebook, it's at Media Hiraya. Twitter and Instagram, it's at Hiraya_media, and also our content will be available always on the hirayamedia.com website. Thank you so much once again. My name is Christian Reyes Sonda, and I'll see you tomorrow for the conversations on the youth's vote. All right. Thank you so much, and have a great Saturday weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.